Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Stout from Cloverleaf Animal Hospital in Lodi, Ohio, and today I'll be talking to you about cat preventative care. And my assistant will be helping by asking some questions. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll understand why preventative care is so important for your cat.
Right. So, Dr. Stout, what is considered preventative care for my cat?
So preventative care kind of encompasses any measure that actually helps the overall health of your cat and to make sure that they live a long, healthy life.
And how can preventative care extend the life and improve the health of my cat?
So preventative care can actually help to decrease certain side effects and illnesses if we catch that early, so that hopefully the longer something goes undiagnosed or we don't determine what it is, the longer it goes on, it can have more detrimental effects. So preventative care again encompasses of trying to catch things early in a cat's life so that hopefully we're able to either treat it or slow down the progression of a disease so that they have a better quality of life.
And what types of preventative care do you recommend for cats?
So there's a lot of different things involved with preventative care. One of the main things that owners typically don't think of because cats are pretty independent creatures, but nutrition is a big part as well as the weight management. I'm a big fan of making sure that our kitties stay healthy and are at healthy weight. And so oftentimes we're discussing a lot at our yearly visits about what we can do if they're getting a little bit too chunky or maybe they're a little bit too thin, that we're doing adjustments with what they're potentially feeding or how much they're feeding, how they're feeding. So that is definitely one aspect that is often forgot or maybe put on the back burner as something not important, but it really can lead to, unfortunately, if your kitty is obese, lead to some early heart problems, liver disease, kidney disease, arthritis. So obviously we don't want that. Vaccinations are a very popular aspect as well. And we also recommend spaying and neutering. There is dental care, which is very important. Again, I think a lot of owners don't really think how teeth are an important aspect of health for kitties. Cats, unfortunately, can get really bad dental disease and it can go unnoticed. So again, part of your yearly exam, we're always doing a good health check on them, a good physical, and one of the predominant areas that we're looking at is their teeth to make sure that there's not any resorptive lesion, any gingivitis, any bad teeth, any cavities, anything like that. And if we do find that, obviously we would be recommending treatment, which would include a dental cleaning and potentially taking care of those bad teeth. As far as parasites, we do screen and do fecal checks as part of our preventative care. So there are parasites that are in the intestines that kitties can have. Sometimes they'll get them when they're a young kitten. Usually adult cats we don't see. If they're indoors, we don't typically find problems with your intestinal parasites, but if they're outdoor kitties, we absolutely recommend at least twice a year checking a fecal sample to make sure that they haven't picked up anything. But then we also have what we call the ectoparasites, and those are fleas and ticks. And so people often are surprised when their indoor kitty is scratching and itching and they come in and they say, well, I don't know, they can't have fleas, they don't go outside. And we, comb through and up, we find fleas and so on. So it is important for both indoor and outdoor kitties to be on some type of a flea preventative or tick preventative during the months that it's high risk. Fleas can actually squeeze through the tiny openings in your screens of your windows and your doors. And so typically the cats like to perch in the windows or in the windowsills. And so again, if that is in an area near a lot of brush or bushes, then that's likely where they're getting them. But you can also bring them in on your clothes as well. And they're gonna hop off of you to go into the animal so that they get a meal. So typically, again, it's not something that's often thought about for indoor kitties, but we do encourage that they're on a flea and tick preventative. Um, there's also a thing called enrichment. And so people are like, well, my cat just lays around all day and it's maybe up to 2 to 3 hours, but it's lazy and it sleeps. But enrichment really involves you being involved with your kitty. And so you want to be able to have some playtime with them. And whether that's throwing a ball or, having a little wand with a feather on it that they can chase, or you want to have cat trees throughout the house where they can perch and climb on things, your scratching posts, and just again, just trying to enrich their environment as much as possible so that they aren't that little couch potato that oftentimes, is described by owners. And then we do have the wellness exams. Part of our wellness exams, depending on the age of your cat, we do recommend, usually by the age of 6, that they should have some type of blood work. Here at Cloverleaf, we recommend every year that they get screened for kidney, liver function. As they get a little bit older, we often will recommend doing a thyroid screen as well. And so that involves blood work that typically will show us the functioning of the kidneys, the function of the liver. It tells us protein levels. It also looks at their complete blood cell counts to make sure that there's no evidence of any anemia, any type of infection going on. Our older kitties, we do recommend also doing urine analysis because there are certain underlying diseases that a urine will help us to determine if the kitty, has that going on or not. And we often incorporate that with the additional blood work that we do.
And what are some possible conditions that can be avoided with cat preventative care?
So with the preventative care, again, if we're, some of the conditions definitely would be parasites. So if we're running a fecal and we see, your kitty has some roundworms, we're gonna prescribe the proper medication to take care of that parasite. We're gonna talk to you about what we can do to prevent those parasites from coming back. So sometimes it's an environmental change. Sometimes it's like, I just, the outdoor kitty just stays and lives outside. And so unfortunately you can't control them eating critters that might be carrying the parasite. So again, checking the fecals routinely would be one of the things that you could do to prevent those parasites. Again, having them on a preventative to prevent them having problems with a flea or tick infestation. Also, the dental disease, having those teeth looked at on a yearly basis so that we're not getting dental disease. I often encourage people to use different dental products to try to slow down the progression. Very few clients will actually try to brush their cat's teeth, but we do chuckle, and I do have a couple clients that are very successful brushing their cat's teeth to try to prevent dental disease. And then vaccines, as far as preventing any type of potential diseases that can be prevented by those vaccines that we give.
And why is it important to avoid self-diagnosing my cat?
So we chuckle here at Cloverleaf Animal Hospital when people say, I Googled this and it told me this. And I'm not saying that Google is a bad thing. We all love Google, but sometimes it can be misleading, or the sites that you're on are not a reputable site. So sometimes you get really paranoid or you get very anxious for something that is very simple. And sometimes it puts things in our minds that we say, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And you come in and you're all upset, and we say, no, it's just a parasite. And, we can treat this, no problem. But it's also self-diagnosing. You don't truly have, unfortunately, all the knowledge or maybe all the information. So again, it can be misleading. So our recommendation is, if you do suspect that there's a problem with your cat, the best option is to just call your veterinarian and get them in for an exam, and then everything can be discussed and diagnostics could be run in order to determine exactly what's going on.
Okay, and last question, what are the risks of failing to provide preventative care for my cat?
So if you fail to do preventative care in general, then it's safe to say you're probably not protecting them against illnesses or diseases that potentially could affect them. It also means that you're not allowing them to have a good quality of life in the sense of, if we said, oh, I missed my yearly exam, it's been 5 years since I brought my cat in, and oh, she hates to come, she hates the carrier and she hates to come in. And we're using that kind of as an excuse of why we're not coming in for those yearly exams. Unfortunately, it is something that can decrease the overall quality of their life. So we do recommend here that your kitty comes in every year for an exam, whether they're due for vaccines or not. Typically with our vaccines, our older kitties get vaccinated every 3 years. So we really don't want clients coming in with their cat every 3 years just because they're due for a vaccine. So there are other measures that we can take to make sure that your cat is living a great life and is not having any underlying health issues. And again, if we're doing that on a yearly basis, then the chances of us catching it earlier than later is definitely going to give them a better quality of life down the road.
And if clients have more questions regarding preventative care for their cats, what should they do?
So we would be happy to talk to you more about cat preventative care. If you have more questions, even on any of the topics, absolutely call the office and we would be happy again to talk to you. We do have a website that you can also go on with our information as far as contacting information too.